Here's why Amazon Basics is something that you should be worried about and why it's probably not such a big threat if you do everything the right way. My name is Laksh Bell and today we're talking about Amazon Basics, the biggest competitor that you might have to contend with, that you might have to face if you're using Amazon to list your products and sell your products, especially if you're doing well on Amazon right now. Let's get started. This is Westernston. So, over the years, Amazon Basics has become one of those staples that you can buy pretty much everything from. Whether it's HDMI cables or tripod stands for your cameras or backpacks, anything that you can import in bulk as a seller can be and will be sooner or later listed by Amazon Basics as a product that they sell. Now, what is Amazon Basics? Amazon Basics is basically Amazon taking the data that you, the seller on Amazon, the third-party seller on Amazon, is creating for them, and then using that data to find out what the best-selling products on their platform are, and then taking those products and putting them on an Amazon Basics program where they create that private label version of that product and start selling it to their customers, not your customers, their customers, because of course anybody who buys any product of yours from Amazon on Amazon is a customer of Amazon and not your customer, unless you know what you're really doing, unless you're using Amazon as a conduit for customer acquisition, and that's where the game really begins for your brand, which is how it should be, right? So Amazon is doing that. If you have a good product, if you have a product that is selling really well on Amazon, they're just going to collect data on that product for a while and then create a better product, use better positioning tactics because they've got Amazon Prime, right? They can get that delivered to the customers the next day or the following day. They have a wide and a vast distribution network. They have an enormous advantage when it comes to leveraging the economies of scale. So they've got all the advantages that a supplier would need in order to sell a product or service, especially a product in today's marketplace. So that should be a huge concern to you if you're a seller on Amazon, if you're selling anything at all on Amazon as a seller, and if your product is selling really well. Sooner or later, Amazon Basics might sweep in. Amazon just might sweep in and say, we want your money. Basically, we don't want to be the middleman anymore. We want to be the seller selling the product on our own platform. So it's our own platform and we are going to have preference for our own products, which is why when you search for a product as a customer, when you search for a product that has an Amazon Basics option or an Amazon Basics SKU available, you are most definitely going to see that first, even if there are sellers that have been around, and in most cases this is true, sellers that have been around for decades or several years who have been working really hard to maintain their reputation on Amazon, get a lot of reviews on Amazon, and have had great reviews from the customers, have had great case studies from the people who've bought their products. Now Amazon is simply undercutting them, and sometimes just by a margin of a few dollars, the customer, the end user, ends up buying the cheaper Amazon Basics version instead of the other product that you or another third-party seller might have listed, especially since Amazon Basics is definitely a brand, just like Kirkland from Costco is definitely a brand, and Target and Walmart and all these big giant retail houses have their own in-house brands, right? So recently I was faced with the decision of buying Duracell batteries or Kirkland batteries, and in the end I found out that Kirkland is the in-house brand of Costco. So it's the equivalent of Amazon Basics for Costco, right? So I found out that if you are buying Kirkland batteries, they are a bit cheaper, sometimes 30 to 40% cheaper than the Duracell batteries, but Kirkland actually asks or sources their batteries from Duracell themselves. So the manufacturing is just the same. So as far as I'm concerned, the end user is concerned, I'm okay with the idea of buying Kirkland over Duracell. Now, if I found that logistically or logically it makes more sense for me to buy a Duracell battery because it lasts longer, then of course I might reconsider But for now, I ended up buying the Kirkland batteries, and that is what can probably happen to your customers as well. That is what is going through your customers' minds as well, because they're thinking, hey, I'm getting a better deal on Amazon Basics, right? I'm getting a better deal there, and so why should I not buy from Amazon Basics? I already trust Amazon. I like Amazon. Amazon is great, and they don't care that Amazon is responsible for having killed off thousands upon thousands, I don't want to say millions, but thousands upon thousands of small businesses, not all over America, but all over the world, simply because of their aggressive pricing and distribution networks. They just have the advantages of scale that small businesses do not have and will not have anytime soon. And by the way, if you're doing $300 million a year, you're still a small business as far as Amazon is concerned, as far as the US government is concerned. You're a small business, so you may be very, very successful right now, but you're a small business waiting to be squashed by a giant like Amazon, who can simply start sourcing their own version of your products and start competing with you using the data that you've given to them over the years, and the product simply gets commoditized. So why is this such a bad news? Well, obviously you are going to be run out of your market sooner or later. Everything becomes commoditized sooner or later. All markets tend towards consolidation and commoditization, and that should be very worrisome to you if you are selling anything at all whatsoever. Everything is going to get commoditized over time. However, it's not such a huge concern for me, and I'll tell you why. The one thing that Amazon Basics is, and you can learn from them, is branding. They have a brand. It's convenient, it's cheap, it's good enough. Nobody's going to say that the Amazon Basics product is going to be the best product there is. Nobody's saying that Kirkland's liquor is the best liquor you can get, or Kirkland's batteries are the best batteries you can get. The reason why you buy them, the reason why we buy these products, is because they're good enough and they're cheap and they're reliable, right? So that's their USP. If those are the USPs that you have been relying on, sadly, it doesn't have to be Amazon Basics or Kirkland or a giant like that that takes you out. Someone else with deeper pockets could just as easily have taken you out, right? Someone else who had more money than you could simply have taken you out, and you would not have a way of fighting back. You would not have a recourse, simply because you do not have the financial muscle that they have. So what do? Well, here's the thing that nobody can steal from you. It's your brand. So if you have been focusing on, or if you now start focusing on cultivating your brand, developing your brand, that is something nobody can steal from you. People are willing to pay a lot more for a branded product than they are for a commodity. Everything about Amazon Basics is about their brand, which is all about convenience and price and being good enough. But good enough is not the best. Sometimes, and for some customers, they want the best. Absolutely the best. Now, I have a camera that I'm using to record this video. It's a great camera. I could have done the same recording or similar quality footage, 80-20, right? I could have gotten it for maybe half the price. But I don't want it. Why? Because it's not that expensive for me, first of all, to splurge on a camera that I really like. And secondly, I like I like to have the greatest quality possible. And so we are constantly upgrading the quality, right? I have a Herman Miller Aeron chair that I work on. It's a task chair that I sit on and I work on. It's the same chair that is used by everyone inside the White House. I recently did a tour of the White House, and even the security people had the Herman Miller Aeron chair to sit on. The reason for that is that it's going to boost your productivity enormously. I mean, the way I calculated my productivity boost was that if I could get 1 extra hour out of it every single day, 1 extra hour of productivity or productive work out of it, just owing to that chair every single day, then over the course of a decade, that really does add up, right? And these chairs are warranted, I think, for 11 years, or at least they were when I bought the version that I bought. And so it's going to last me at least a decade. So over the decade, how many hours is that? That's 3,000 hours. What's the price of 3,000 hours of productive work in your field, right? Even if it's the minimum wage, it's worth $36,000. So $1,000 for a chair suddenly does not sound ridiculously high, does it? And that is why people don't always buy whatever is good enough. Sometimes people like to know what it is that they're buying and why that value proposition is there, which is what the job of your branding and your marketing is. Your branding, your marketing should make it superfluous for you to have sales simply because of establishment of those values, right? Your branding, your messaging is establishing those values. You're telling your clients, your audience, your prospects why what you're doing is valuable, how you're adding value to their life, how you're helping them achieve their goals faster, how you are helping them get more out of their lives, out of their work, out of whatever it is that they do. If you're selling a cup of coffee, how you are adding something to their cup of coffee that Amazon Basics probably cannot, or Kirkland branded coffee beans cannot, right? Let's say you are doing coffee and you're doing freshly roasted coffee beans and you roast your coffee beans every day. That's value that Kirkland probably cannot deliver on, simply because the economies of scale now become the Achilles heel that, you know, in the beginning made them super strong, but now they just don't have the ability to create super value propositions that you can, that I can, being small and nimble and agile. And all this agility is a factor based on our smallness, right? Our being small. So we can make things very quickly, we can move things very quickly, we can customize offers, and that is something bigger competitors cannot. So Amazon Basics is a big, great threat for everyone who is not adding any value to the chain. If you're importing a few thousand SKUs from China and then using your own brand to slap on that private label product and then selling those on Amazon for a nice or a neat little profit, great. That's just the beginning though, because that's not going to last. If you do really well, someone else is going to sweep in or swoop into your market and destroy you simply because they have deeper pockets. When you're importing 1,000 products or 1,000 SKUs, 1,000 units at a time, they could import 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 units at a time and negotiate a far better price than you could from the manufacturer, from the supplier. So you gotta constantly think about why and how you're adding value and what it is that you're doing for your clients, for the end user, that makes your product unique. And when you focus on the value proposition, you're constantly thinking about making your product better. That's something that Amazon Basics really cannot compete with or replicate. Yeah, they can do a $5 cheaper version of your $50 product, right? You have a $50 product, they can launch it for $35 or $40. Yes, they can do that, but their big strength is economies of scale. If you're constantly innovating, if you're constantly adding something to the relationship that you have with your customer. Again, the philosophy is don't fall in love with your products, fall in love with your clients, and start thinking about what business you are really in. You're in the business of serving your customers, and it doesn't matter how you do that, what you sell to them in order to do that. You should be constantly thinking about getting them the results that they want and making their life a little bit better incrementally every single day. Because you know what they say about a journey of 1,000 miles. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So every day, you should be focusing on making things a little bit better for your customers, for your clients, for your audience, and then you should make an attempt to relay that message to your audience. How what you're doing is going to make their lives a little bit more convenient, a little bit more productive, a little bit better. How your coffee tastes a little bit better. Why your restaurant charges $35 for a burger, right? You can explain all those things and you can constantly continue to work on all those things, and that is the essence of brand building. We keep coming back to brand building, but once you build a brand, the power of that brand is so enormous that your competitors really have no choice. In the end, products get commoditized, but brands don't. The difference between brands and commodities, we've already talked about that in another video. If you haven't seen it, you can see it now. We'll place a link to it on the page. But the difference between brands and commodities is fungibility. To me, Duracell and Kirkland are fungible. I could just as easily replace the Duracell battery with a Kirkland battery and experience no difference whatsoever. So I'll just simply go for whatever is cheapest or most convenient to me. But if those batteries were not fungible, if I were getting an inferior product in some way, of course I would not pay for that product, right? Paying for an inferior product is something that we really don't want to do. You want to get a great deal on a great product, or a good deal on a good product, but we don't want an inferior product whatsoever. So that's it for this video. My name is Laksh Bell. This is Westernston. And the point is, either you should be worried about Amazon Basics or another competitor with deeper pockets coming in and killing all your profits by just undercutting you for a while and dominating your marketplace, or you have nothing to be worried about because you have been focusing on, or you are now going to focus on, building a brand and constantly endeavoring to make your customers, make your audience's life or lives a little bit better with each passing day, and you make a constant effort to communicate how you're doing this to your audience.